System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Thursday, March 19th. I am Amin TMK alongside Amoja Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello, happy Thursday here in the new future of
peacetime gone, bro. Peacetime
no
gone.
More peacetime. No more peacetime. Let's start with this right here. I think this is major news. As you can, for our broadcast listeners or watchers, I guess you'll be able to see this. But for our podcast listeners, I'll try to break this down. Israel strikes and have hit the largest Iranian gas processing plant in Isailia. South Pars accounts the South Pars gas facility accounts for 75% of Iran's natural gas production, and it is estimated about 80% of the country's power grid runs on natural gas. This is a major escalation that will have dramatic consequences on the global economy. Lots of things have been happening, not just this, obviously. But what does this particularly mean going forward? We know the Straits of Hormuz is closed. We know the gas prices are rising. We know, Saudi Arabia's facilities have been hit. We know that that may be ramping up. Tell me a little bit about this South Pars facility and sort of just what's going on right now, in your opinion.
Yeah, so first off, I have to unfortunately correct you. According to Peter Hegseth, the Secretary of War, the Straits of Hormuz are not closed, right? It's just the captains that are sailing these boats filled with hundreds of thousands of barrels of highly explosive, flammable products are just too chicken shit, apparently, to risk being fired upon by a Navy that no longer exists, from an army and a military that's been 100% degraded, according to Peter Hegseth and the President of the United States of America. So, I'm sorry to correct you, man. You mostly be like 99.7% correct with your assessment, but the Secretary of War has said that you are in fact not correct. In addition to us having already spent $19,627,345,000 and counting, we're going to need another $200 billion to execute this war, which, by the way, is more than enough to end homelessness worldwide. Would put a significant dent in student loan debts, all kinds of other worthwhile projects that we could do with that money. Instead, we're going to use it to continue winning a war that we've 100% won already. All of our goals are being met. Right? Real talk. Blowing up that gas installation was a huge problem, and it was immediately made aware to the president, right? Because what do we get? We got this big, huge, meandering amalgamation of apologies and threats, right, to the Iranians. Like, Israel did it. They didn't tell us nothing, right? And so now we're supposed to believe that Central Command and Israel are not coordinating attacks and strikes, which is impossible to believe because just based on attack vectors, you need to know where your allies are going to be. It's just like hunting. We hunt in zones, and everybody knows where the other hunters are. Or else you fuck around and you shoot your mans. Like only Dick Cheney gets to do that. Everybody else, the thing about it is, as much as we talk about the asymmetrical nature of Iran's responses, the reality is they've been very straightforward about certain red lines. As soon as this gas line got hit, which, by the way, is not strictly an Iranian gas field, it's co-owned between the Iranians and the Qataris. And even in this, apology threat letter from the president, he's like, was totally unfair. What's happened to Qatar? Maybe you should have talked to your homies if we are to believe that you didn't tell them. Iran did the most predictable thing ever. They went and hit everyone else's petroleum reserves. Last night, they struck 10 different oil reserves and natural gas reserves in the Middle East. All over. And this is something they've been very straightforward about what happened. If you attack them, they would retaliate in kind. And so what we're starting to see is no longer just a war between the Americans and the Israelis and even the Gulf states against Iran. We're starting to see, again, back to why we call this World War III, the opening stages of World War III. We're seeing an attack on global energy. And the oil prices have already begun to reflect that. Brent crude is now well over 100. Last I checked earlier this morning, it was about 117 a barrel in trading. That's like a 70% increase from where it was just again 3 weeks ago. And these are things that are not even they're not even considered when I'm giving you the costs, right? Again, I'm only giving you guys the strict cost of what it costs to operate the military in this capacity as it's been operated for the past 3 weeks. None of this is estimates of how much people's prices will go up. You can expect that prices at the pump will go up, but it creates even bigger problems. There's problems with fertilizer comes out of the Middle East. You know, that's a byproduct of petroleum refinery. You know, you get a lot of the sulfur that you use that becomes, fertilizer around the world. So, and this is springtime. This is when you're going to start planting. This is when you're going to want to fertilize that soil. So the impacts of this are going to be long standing and far felt. And contrary to popular belief, Americans will feel this too. Even if we feel it last, even if we feel it least, we will feel it. But the rest of the world is going to feel it huge. Japan is feeling it now. South Korea is feeling it now. Ironically, Taiwan is feeling it now, right? There's been overtures from the Chinese to be like, you can always just, reincorporate. We're good. We have quite amount of reserves. We kind of expected this shit, so we've been saving away. I think who's going to be hit the most, though, is Europe. Europe is not energy independent. They're not technology independent. They're not food independent, right? Pretty much the entire way of life that Europe counts on has been outsourced to the rest of the world. The rest of the world working in perfect order is what allows the standard of living for the average European to happen in the way that it happens.
How about this? Iran has destroyed 10 U.S. radars, hit bases dozens of times. This is from antiwar.com. Iranian forces began firing missiles and drones at American military assets in Middle East after a surprise attack by the U.S. and Israel. Iran has inflicted a heavy toll on the network of American radars across the Middle East. Advanced radar systems are crucial for identifying and shooting down missiles and drones. Imagery reviewed by ABC News shows that at least 10 American radars in the Middle East were destroyed in the first 2 weeks of the war with Iran. The strikes have hit 4 ANTPY-2 systems, which are the primary radars used by THAAD. We've talked about THAAD before. What does this mean for the United States? Like, how important are these, and how impressive is this that this is happening? We know that those THAAD batteries, some of them had been moved from South Korea. I think all of the South Korean THAAD missiles, or at least the batteries, have been removed. I mean, it does seem like wherever you turn, there is sort of a new American asset being hit in the Middle East by Iran. What is your take from this?
A lot of people joke that AWACS are the quarterbacks of the military field of modern battle space, because they paint the radar picture. That's not altogether true. There are other other radars that are even more important, and that early sensor radars are perhaps the most important. And so the fact that so many of these radars have been hit, which again we've talked about on this show, those costs are not added when we're giving you these, right? These are priceless radars. Not only do they cost fuck tons, some of these radars cost up to $1 billion each. The lesser ones are, 300 million, still nothing to sneeze at. The fact that 10 of them have been hit is why there's no longer any type of realistic warning as far as incoming, right? So now the trajectory is a lot eased. The path for these Iranian missiles and these Iranian drones, you don't know when they're coming now. You don't have early warning. We talked about, you went from about 15 minutes of early warning to about 2 minutes now. And now it's probably going to be less than that with the impact of these radars, the loss of these radars. AWACS can do a lot, but nothing replaces those early warning radars that are on the ground. And this is directly what led to these create what we call in the field cascading failures, right? The loss of those radars is what leads to the crashing of these refuelers, right? Assuming that we're not seven and we can believe that these vehicles took fire, which is why they were hit. This is what led to them utilizing the F-35s in this theater, because they also do limited radar sweeping, right? And they're out there providing all of that information in what is called an integrated battle space. When you lose the primary radars, you have to go to secondary and tertiary systems. The AWACS are the secondary systems. The F-35s are tertiary systems, and each one is a significant step down from the status above. But now we have the first verified strike on an F-35 in a battle space in contemporary military history. Yeah, they fall out of the sky on their own, plenty. But in war, so far, according to propaganda, they had never been hit. Just like the F-15, that battle record is now gone. See, all that bullshit goes away in a war. It's not just, we joke about this amongst ourselves at Inner City Left. There's a difference between having goals and a plan. They had goals for what they wanted to do in Iran. They did not have any type of real plan to execute these things. Most of these things hinged upon the hubris of the previous successes that they'd had. But they didn't have no Delcy Rodriguez to fall on that you can lean on that'll silently, quietly sell your country out. Nah, Iran ain't built like that. Iran is built very different. It's a culture built on suffering and martyrdom. And we continue to give them, reasons to fight harder that tie directly into their strengths as a culture.
Yeah, you mentioned the F-35, and I think it just goes back to, like, there's obviously what's happening on the ground. And then there is sort of a larger conversation of what is America's invincibility as a military, that we know that lots of people are always talking to us about. Oh, America's so powerful. They're so strong. They can't be beat. And while they are very advanced in some ways, they are obviously missing here in missile defense. This is kind of what the whole Golden Dome idea was supposed to be about. Obviously, that's a pipe dream. And, the billions and billions continue to go up on that project. Just like the billions and billions continue to go up on, this war on Iran. I think that between that and sort of the very visceral feeling of not having money for groceries, not having money for your gas, not having all these other things, like you said, Europe is feeling it. The United States will be feeling it very soon, and the rest of the world is now. And I think that it's a dangerous position to be in right now. But regardless of that, you are now kind of seeing Saudi Arabia, Qatar starting to discuss their their participation in the war against Iran. Do you see a situation where the Saudis or the Qataris or the Emiratis or Bahrain or whatever it may be start to, instead of just kind of condemning what's happening with the strikes, to maybe participating in the war alongside Israel and the United States?
Oh, they certainly want to. It's just the thing is, when you have mercenary muscle, that's not the same thing as having a real military industrial complex. Iran absolutely has such a thing, despite whatever the president is telling you. Iran has built for this. When you listen to Morandi, Professor Morandi out of Iran, he talks about the fact that they were never worried about Israel because for the past 40 years, the Iranians have been preparing for one goal and one goal only: a face-off with the United States military, not to start it, but to survive it. They realized it was inevitable. And what else are you to believe, right? After the Americans sent Saddam Hussein, the same Saddam Hussein that we all can pretty much agree is not a great guy, the United States back in the 80s, under Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, were arming these Iraqis to fight the Iranians. A lot of people argue in geopolitical circles, Saddam fell out of favor with the United States for failing to accomplish this mission. But it's an unsurvivable mission. We've talked about on this podcast before, Admiral Fallon told George W. Bush, I cannot achieve what you want. We can surge into Iraq, but we cannot go into Iran because they have escalatory dominance. Everybody has known for more than 20 years that they would close off the straits, that they would significantly impact the flows of oil throughout the world, and oil is the spice, and the spice must flow. Even the Padishah Emperor in Dune is forced to recognize at the point that Paul Muad'Dib has controlled the spice, like, he can destroy it. I can't fuck with it. I bow down. Well, Iranians find themselves in much the same situation. They can control not all of the world's oil, but 20 to 40% of the world's daily output. What is allowed to come out to the market and what is not allowed. And their ships are still moving. They've told the world, if you sell your petroleum in yuan, which is the Chinese renminbi, it's their standard of currency, we'll let the shipments move. That in and of itself is another strike on the American economy, because oil around the world has become the de facto that backs up the fiat currency that is the American dollar. It's even called the petrodollar. So the fact now that oil is being sold in a denomination other than dollars, this makes it harder for the United States Treasury to borrow, right? It makes it harder to flood the world with dollars whenever you need them. It debases the American economy in a way that blowing up 1,000 F-35s wouldn't have the impact on. And this is what we talk about. When people talk about playing four-dimensional chess, that's what the Iranians are doing right now. That doesn't seem to be what the Americans are doing, who can't even keep on message. The fact that we have Americans jumping out of this, the Trump administration, saying that we have the way that this war is being prosecuted. Tulsi Gabbard going in front of Congress being like, look, it's not for me to decide what's an imminent threat. Only the president can do that. But I told him, we believe your evaluations from last year that Iran is not in a position to pursue nuclear weapons, that they haven't begun refining uranium again since the strikes on Fordo and the other refinery plants last year. Right. So we're in this place now where everybody's trying to save their own ass without throwing Trump under the bus. But, success has a million authors, and defeat is a bastard, an orphan bastard. And we're getting to the point where even though objectives are being met, the primary objective, which has been set so high, unconditional surrender, it seems very far away from that goal, if those are the goals. Meanwhile, the goals of the Iranians are not far away. They've said they want to push oil to $200 a gallon, possibly $400 a gallon. That will destroy the economies of the West. and the
A
world.
barrel, you mean, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah, a barrel. Yeah, $200 to $400 a barrel.
You mentioned Professor Morandi. Seems like he's kind of had a more serious tone. And I wanted to play this just for our audience. Yeah, here we go.
A strategic defeat to the United States under Trump.
What does that look like?
You'll see in the weeks ahead.
Is there a deal possible? Is there a chance of talks between the two sides at this point?
No, not at all. We will fight, and we'll hold the U.S. by the throat through the Strait of Hormuz, and we'll continue to hammer them. And if they try to do anything on the ground, then they'll really see what we can do. You mess with the wrong country. Your propaganda doesn't work anymore. And the Iranian people have shown their resolve. They'll see this through. What you've done to the Palestinian people, to the Iraqi people, to the Cuban people,
finally,
to the Venezuelan people,
we are running out of time. We are running out of time.
To the Iranian people.
Can I?
They're running out of time, man.
Ooh, bitch, you running out of time for show.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I mean, it's, that's about as serious as I've heard Professor Morandi talk. And obviously, I think he speaks for a lot of Iranians. And, we talked about this and we mentioned this. And I told you this as today is the final day of Ramadan for most of the Muslim world. You killed a religious leader on Ramadan, okay? And first of all, we haven't got too deep into Ben Gvir and the Smoltresses and Yoav Gallant and possibly Six Finger Bibi, okay? Or Switch the Ring Finger Bibi, or Got Too Many Ear Canals Bibi, all right? Like, we haven't even got into that. But if, and I'm not saying it is, if many of those leaders, those cabinet members are dead, you would have to think that all of the Muslims doing dua and talking about ending, the lives of these top Zionists and genociders, that their prayers have come true. And Ramadan is 2 billion people, okay, that are participating in Ramadan. Not to mention all the other people who are trying to participate in some way through some aspect of solidarity. And Iran does not seem like they're ready to back down. Is that sort of what you get from it as well?
Yeah, here's the thing. The American military implemented the COINTEL program that was engineered by the FBI, and they militarized it. And they've had a great deal of success with that in the 21st century, right? They were able to utilize that in Iraq, right? Take out the leadership, see if there's somebody that you can collaborate on the lower levels, right? That works in a fractured community. It was able to work against the Black community during the very well-known aspects of the civil rights struggle, which, by the way, are definitely not over. They're just more, it's relegated, right? Like a thing of the past, because Black people in America don't exist as a monolith, right? So the theory is, if you wipe out the radical ones, we can work with the lesser radical or the lesser popular ones. Get rid of King, get rid of Malcolm X, and you're left with guys who that we can make into, senators and congressmen. We'll have our Jesse Jacksons left, right? That works in a place like the United States. It works in a place like Iraq, where a good portion of the population are Kurds, a portion of the population is Shia, a good portion of the population is Arab Sunni, right? You cannot utilize those same tactics in a place like Iran, even though there's a lot of ethnic segmentation. More than any other identity, they see themselves as Iranian. So there's no far enough you can go, like, oh, well, we knock out this leader, and then we'll finally get to a guy we can work with. No matter how much these guys may or may not hate the government, they love Iran. you know? And that's why, like, you have to see this as a flawed strategy. But again, people like David Petraeus was able to sell this as such a success because of what he was able to do, just spreading a little bit of money around, and with everyone's general disdain for Saddam Hussein in Iraq, why not go to the trick again, But if you watch football, man, like, you ain't going to be able to run that many flea flickers, man, if at all. And so that's where we are now. They've tried the same tactics that have had a lot of success for them, respectfully, in the past, on a society that is wholly cauterized against, such an attack. You kill, again, I can only compare this to other religious societies. If for some reason someone was to strike the Pope, you're not going to end Roman Catholicism. Another guy is going to step up and be the Pope. Like, that's just the reality. This is not a cult of personality. They need you to believe that. But this is a cohesive culture that has practiced in this way for almost 2,000 years since the death of Muhammad. This is the way that this culture has been set. And this is the way that they will continue to run. No one person changes that. No one person's death will significantly fracture that. And you can see that when you see someone like Professor Randy, who's just an intellectual. I mean, he served in the Iranian military during the Iraq-Iranian war, ironically. But this is not a person like that is a military man. You know what I'm saying? He's an intellectual. And yet you hear such anger. This is a person that normally doesn't sound very angry at all. And yet here we are. Because at the end of the day, he is an Iranian. He is an Iranian to his core. All of his blood bleeds for Iran, Ain't gonna be no quick deal. Ain't gonna be no subterfuge. Trump has been victimized by his own success and his own mythology. That's the trap he's walked into. But there are more traps still. Landing American troops. I mean, where are you going to land them from? You can't land them in Iraq. Iraq is essentially in a state of civil war. You can't land them in Bahrain. That still doesn't present a land bridge. Were you going to put them in Afghanistan? The American army has been removed from Afghanistan. You can't put them in Pakistan, right? There is no easy way this ain't the world of Star Trek, man. You can't teleport 300,000 fucking soldiers with a logistics train into the heart of Tehran. You just can't do it. Logistics wins wars. It's not even that we don't have enough men, which, by the way, we don't have enough men. We don't have enough men. But even if you had enough men, you don't have enough logistics stores to keep those men in bullets, okay, in protection, in food. Ground operations are exhaustive logistics planning affairs. It doesn't seem like we got a lot of planning right now, but we do got some big ass goals.
I'm going to pivot a little bit. Still think it's important. Don't know if you saw this. It's a bit salacious, I guess, but it happened. The worst smile in politics. That would be President Takaichi from Japan. Met with Trump today. I don't know if you knew that. Just going to go ahead and play this for you and get your reaction.
Good friend, but one question, why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay?
You almost kind of heard that little, ooh, like at the very end. Man.
Awkward turtle. Why didn't you tell me? Well, for one, you'd have been like 2 fucking years old. So there's that. Look, the problem is and everyone is having this problem. Europe is having this problem. Japan is having this problem. Ukraine is having this problem. They think that they're allies of the American empire. You're fucking not. You're a vassal. You know, what was Conor McGregor's? You'll do what you're fucking told. They told Israel because Israel was in on it. You know, this wasn't a complete surprise. Inner city left knew it was coming. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Israel knew it was coming. Iran knew it was coming. They didn't think that they'd be silly enough to hit them on the first day of a religious holiday, but, you know, people be in love with their little decapitation strikes. They think that's going to end it. You know, a lot of fights can be ended if you're a professional fighter and you hit them in the face first. A lot of people, but it's not going to stop a fighter. You know, most fighters can take a hit to the face. Most fighters can be hit, you know, and that's, you know, we talked about this again on our last episode. Iran knew the attack was imminent. They knew they couldn't strike first because, again, then you're providing the Americans a casus belli. So the Americans had a straight up free first hit, and they used it to blow up a school full of girls, children, and to blow up their revered religious leader. What a waste. What a wasted opportunity. Should have landed troops. If you had a free first move, landing your troops would have been the best possible move to achieve the quite lofty goals, you know, that you have set forth. But again, America doesn't have allies. They have vassals, and their vassals are all experiencing humiliation rituals. And that's what that is. I mean, talking to Takaichi, one of the worst, most horrifying, horrible anime villains of all time, Margaret Thatcher in Japan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you know, and, you know, and again, you know, this is what's going to happen. He's going to humiliate her because, again, everybody saw the post just a couple of days ago where Trump is begging for help, begging from Japan, begging from NATO, begging from China, of all places. Help us open the Hormuz Straits. We don't need nobody's help. Well, Japan said no. So you come to Washington, you're going to get fucking humiliated. You humiliated me by saying no, by not joining in this war that I didn't tell you anything about. And now you won't put your fledgling weak-ass Navy up against drone, artillery, and rocket fire. Again, even the Americans aren't doing this. The Abraham Lincoln has moved out of presumably rocket range, missile range. The Ford is limping its way all the way back to Crete, you know, and let's be honest, it's going to have to go back to America, you know. Let's assume everything they're saying is true. Let's assume that first the toilets were overflowing, no problem, nobody did that, but I don't know, the ship and the gremlins, and then a fire gets started that burns for 30 hours. Nah. The United States is not putting their capital ships on the line, and they're demanding that all of their vassals do it, and the vassals had the goddamn audacity to say no. Nah, humiliation. Everybody's being humiliated. Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of England, is being humiliated. Takaichi is being humiliated. And the thing is, this is a real time, right? If they were really allies, they could make other decisions, you know, make their own choices. Japan has already started to buy more Russian oil because what the fuck else can they do? But if they were really allies, they would have the power and the strength to maybe make some of their own foreign policy decisions because they've never been weaker. Takaichi has talked cash shit about China. And now the THAADs are gone from that area. The Marine Expeditionary Force is gone out of Okinawa. You know what I'm saying? The Americans are less than they've been in the Pacific for quite some time. And what we've seen is America going toe-to-toe with a second-rate military like Iran. What the fuck is going to happen when they take on a real dragon in the Chinese? The world's starting to see it. And those are taking their little step back to kind of be like, you know, that's between y'all.
Convey what we can and cannot do.
Last thing, I wanted to say, I wanted to mention, or I wanted to bring to our listeners and to you as well. It's the same thing. Takaichi, she was talking a little bit earlier. And, you know, I think that people are starting to wake up a little bit because of what's happening in Iran. And they're saying, like, yo, the United States can take major L's, even if they're still the most powerful, you know, military, or one of the most powerful militaries in the world with the incredible ability to destroy. People starting to see it, man. Maybe America can't protect you. This is Takaichi earlier.
Earlier, we intend to clearly convey what we can and cannot do in accordance with Japanese law. The US should already be well aware of Japan's legal framework from the past experience.
Does Trump really know about Japanese
Get back
law?
up. Get back up.
When Prime Minister Abe was in office, he carefully explained Japan's constitution and made it clear that what cannot be done simply cannot be done. If Trump has forgotten about it, we will convey this to him clearly again.
So I think, again, just sort of this hurts America. It's like just losing the F-35. It hurts America's reputation. And Japan is pretty much locked in as much as really any ally can be, I think, at this point. But man, when you look at those economies and they're going down, and you're looking at what Iran's capabilities are. You look at, Iran's capabilities is one thing, but Russia's and China's. They also have an incredible. They're even further beyond what Iran can do. And I think if you're one of those American puppets, you kind of got to be worried right now. And I think you're hearing a little bit of worry in her voice. And again, just the unhinged, racist, ahistorical takes of Donald Trump is a humiliation ritual. And many leaders have been in that office with the fake gold plating and, all that sort of tacky Mar-a-Lago vibe, and have been humiliated there, whether it's African leaders, European leaders, Central South American leaders. Oh, yeah. Zelensky, remember J.D. Vance was up there.
I was had a fist fight.
You ain't wear a suit. You coming in here looking right.
Say thank you. You better say thank you up in this bitch.
Yeah. And he just, it's just like, this is not like the quality of a leader. And I think everyone knows that. And I think the United States just cannot handle and could not handle a Trump back-to-back presidency. And the United States is on the decline. And I just mean on the decline from where they were in the 90s. There is no way we can acknowledge. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They know it. They know it, right? And that's why they're making these desperate moves. We talk about this all the time in really tough video games or like a chess game, right? When are you most out of your frame? When you're a little bit behind, got to take some chances. You know what I'm saying? Got to try to hit one more time before you go on guard, right? With chess, you got to blitz a little bit harder. You got to take more chances when you're behind, and it just makes you make more mistakes. If you're doing your best and you're falling behind, what's it going to be when you're not being cautious, right? You're taking shortcuts, the opportunity to make even bigger mistakes. But the reality is there's not much Japan could do. What she's referring to is they are constitutionally prohibited from having only so large of a force, right? They are defeated military from World War II. And it ain't just the United States of America keeping them honest. You know what I'm saying? North Korea is keeping them honest. Russia is keeping them honest. China is keeping them honest. If they start to build past a breakout period, you ain't got to worry about this Iran situation. North Korea alone is more than a match for Japan, which is why they created South Korea, to literally be a buffer to protect Japan from the North Koreans. Like, fuck what you heard. This is real history.
Well, it's good that we removed the THAAD batteries from South Korea.
Yeah, I'm sure that
they
won't
won't need them. Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I just want to say in closing, Japan militarily is not even a match for Iran. If Japan was there by themselves, they'd be getting truly fucking washed. And I think it's time to put some fucking respect on the capacity of a lot of these militaries simply because they're not Western militaries. That doesn't make them incapable. You know, we live in a world where technology is shared. You know,
and racism has been a huge part of that. Oh, America can't be beaten. We can't be stopped. No, other countries. I mean, Iran is like I think 90 million people are living in Iran. 70% of their STEM graduates are women. You know, that whole idea of, they're oppressing women and they're
American women are going to free Iranian women.
Yeah, like there was literally a comment on one of our pages, Inner City Left, at Inner City Left on Instagram, where someone legitimately was like, wait a minute, Iran didn't kill 30,000 of their own people? And it's like, yeah, like a lot of Americans are still kind of coming down from this idea that Iran has executed 30,000 people, even with no footage. Israel was saying that they had full vision. They had full sweep through from every alley in Tehran. They could see it all. That's how they got Khomeini. That's how they got these major leaders, yet no footage. And I think,
what do you say all the time, man? Keep it real. You can't even keep it realistic. So the Americans have bombed Iran with the greatest weapons on earth, barring nuclear weapons, right? The greatest weapons on earth with Israel for nonstop for 18 days. And according to the American numbers, they've only killed about 2,000 Iranians. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you're dropping death from the fucking skies. And America's only killed 2,000 Iranians in, I don't know, the better part of a month. And yet the feeble Iranian government is supposed to have killed 30,000 people in 3 days. I'm sorry. I just can't apologize for that. If you believe that, you're just fucking dumb. You're fucking thick. Like, you want to believe these things about non-Western countries.
And it's just centuries of propaganda that perpetuate throughout the United States. It's as bad as ever. We talked about our broadcast being taken down for 2 days. When the original strike that Israel and the United States sent and it killed Khomeini, that episode was removed for 48 hours. This is what happens when all the news is suppressed. People are working 50-hour, 60-hour work weeks. Every job interview you do is an absolute humiliation ritual, 4 and 5 interviews deep. The United States citizenry is so strapped right now, and they are in such turmoil, 900,000 homeless people, that, this being one of the biggest news stories in, 50 years, is just not even penetrating into the average American's periphery or their kind of water cooler talk. It's still like the providence of like geopolitical experts and sort of the fringe media that we see. And the United States, I think once again the economy is going to crash, is crashing from 50,000 Pat Bondi points on the Dow. Now we're getting close to 46,000. It's a 4,000 point drop over about a 2.5 week period. So, look, we're going to continue to cover this, and we want everyone to take this seriously. And we know our listeners are. We know our listeners are informed. But, this is just another reason that you can share our broadcast with people. And, if they have 45 minutes twice a week to really get that, or follow us on Inner City Left, where we talk about tons and tons of issues, because it's our responsibility as Americans and sort of, anti-imperialists to do this conversation and have this knowledge. I want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts for now. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see how long that stays. I hope it's much longer and they don't take down any of our episodes. We are on YouTube. Obviously, if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe, all of those good things. Patreon.com/InnerCityLeft. We love you guys. I don't know what else to say. Very appreciative of y'all. And, we're trying to upgrade, and I think we are upgrading. I think you see the little upgrades. Tanky, I don't know if you've seen Tanky's chair. It looks so luxurious. What is it, like suede or something, man? This thing is nice.
You know, this is a baby unicorn skin. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
That's
my captain's chair,
ostrich.
no fucking around.
Oh no, that's
straight magical with mine.
Yeah, that's alpaca. You got to blot that shit, bro.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, you got to blot that. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins.
Hey, shout out to all of y'all in the comments, man. Y'all are giving us life.
Yeah, and thanks for always like we always do appreciate like the nice comments, and you know when people DM us and stuff like that. That stuff keeps us going too. Messages on the Patreon, and like yo, we're blowing up, dude. Like we've been blowing up. I told you, Christina Milian, sister, followed us, and the drummer for Fall Out Boy followed us. So like we're like getting up there, you know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I think we can end it there. Final thoughts, Tanky. What did we miss? Give us a final statement before we slide out.
This is just the staging. This is just the staging rounds. You got to remember, Iran is a bit player, the same way that Venezuela was a bit player. We're supposed to breeze through these, confiscate their resources, bring them under the American energy umbrella, distribute their oil like cookies and candies to those that were good and said please and thank you. This is a hiccup. But even the disruption serves the greater goal of removing or making energy less accessible, which is a major goal, because you have to remember, the president has said it. This is one thing he's completely correct about. America's energy independent, baby. We are a net positive exporter of petroleum. We make more than enough, more than we need. We make so much oil and coal, right, and natural gas that we're able to sell it to the world. We sell petroleum, we sell coal, we sell gas, even to our enemies. We sell it to China. We sell it to all around the world. And when the oil goes away, the people that sell have a good day. So even in the losses, we're making money off the losses. You know, it's the Enron way. Even when we're losing, we're winning. And the point is to hurt China, to hurt Russia, make them have less accessibility for their products, less availability and access to petroleum and oil. We're controlling that part of the dance. So even in a loss, they have made contingencies for all of this. This is all continuation of agenda, and it's just getting started, baby.
Yeah. For Amoja, Little Tanky Summer, I'm Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city love.